I think one thing I found is expats kind of go through a few stages here. First, there's sort of the wild enthusiasm of having arrived and living in a different country. Then comes the culture shock stage. The boy, everything pretty much just isn't as good as it is back home. The postal service not very good, and the streets are dirty. And why do they do this? And why does the music bang in the street until 3 a.m.? And at that point, I think a lot of people leave. And that I think happens around sort of the 1 year to 2 year mark in the expat experience. After that, people tend to settle in. And I think this is just my observation, but I think the ones that end up settling in and enjoying their lives, at least the ones I know, they tend to develop a network of friends that may include a few expats, but by and large, their friends start being Colombian people. Most of my friends are Colombians. People I work with are generally Colombians. You just become part of the culture. I mean, my girlfriend, a lot of her family has left Venezuela also, so I have more nephews and cousins than I ever had back in the U.S., and I'm the uncle to a whole bunch of Venezuelans, and that creates its own set of issues and cultural challenges, but it also creates a sense of belonging. But in my opinion, really, the personal safety here gets much better if you start knowing the local people. When you're going across the city square and you're waving at people and they're waving back, you know somebody's looking out for you in case there's any trouble. And that makes me feel very safe here. It's much tighter. People don't leave their homes in the morning and then drive 30 miles to go to work and then come home just to sleep. Most people live and work within a couple of miles, and so if you know people in one area, you just become part of that neighborhood. I mean, I know people that work for the government, and I know some guys that sleep on the street. It's one of the things that I like much better here than in the U.S. is I walk everywhere. I don't have a car. Don't want to have a car. I've driven millions of miles probably in my life. Don't want to have a car. It costs a lot of money. Driving is crazy here. You got a lot of part-time Formula One drivers. And it feels more like a community. It doesn't feel like it's just a place to sleep where everybody comes and goes all the time. And you get invited to this birthday party and that the birthday party, and you know who's having a baby and who's having a bad time and who's having a good time. And yeah, sometimes down here they ask you for help. I mean, if you're a gringo, you always have more money than the locals. I mean, it's a topic that's, especially if you have a relationship with somebody here, that's a very real thing. You got to draw and set up some boundaries around that, because otherwise your family's going to go from 20 to 200 in about a week or two, and they all have some needs. But if there's a legitimate need, yeah, I help people out, and usually they pay me back, and sometimes they can't, and I don't have a problem with that. Well, that's kind of a longish sort of a story. I had always been, well, let me back up here. Having grown up in Germany, I value multiculturalism. I value that my children would understand that there are people from other cultures, that they're human beings also. So we actually moved to Costa Rica for a while, after we had vacationed a few times in Nicaragua and in Costa Rica. And then I decided, hey, you know what, maybe we'll just move down here. And to make it even more exciting, I decided I was going to buy a sailboat. I'd been a competitive sailor back when I was in high school, but Colorado's not really that well known for sailing, so I didn't do much. I did join a sailing club there, and I did some sailing, but I bought a sailboat in San Francisco, brought it down. We actually took it through the Panama Canal and took it over to the Atlantic side, in Panama, in an island chain called the Bocas del Toro. And then I found out that I had a business problem back home in the U.S. with an ex-business partner of mine. So I had to go back to the U.S., and the boat was now in the Bocas del Toro in Panama. Well, some guy decided he contacted me. He was going to take care of my boat, and he was going to bring it over to Colombia. And I said, well, fine. I mean, I'm in the U.S. right now. If you're going to take care of it, bring it over. And he brought it over. He brought it over to Cartagena at first. And then one day he said, you know what, Mike, we're going to take your boat to Santa Marta. And I was like, where's Santa Marta? He said, it's in Colombia. And I looked it up on Wikipedia. I have no idea where Santa Marta is. And I found out it's this relatively small coastal town to the, I guess it's to the east and slightly north of Cartagena, right next to this huge mountain chain that I'd never even heard of. I mean, there's these mountains that are, I don't know what they are, 6,000 meters, pretty close to it, like 5,900 meters high, within like 50 miles of the ocean here. So I finally came down here, and the first time I was here, the boat was in the marina, and I stayed on the boat. It's cheap, it's my boat, right? And but I'm in Colombia, the land of Pablo Escobar. So I was like kind of terrified. I was there like 10 days, and they had a food court in front of the marina. All I ever did was go to the food court, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, because I was too afraid to go out to the city. The furthest I went was like 2 blocks to the pharmacy to get some painkillers. And I went home, and then I came back, and this time my friend was actually here, and we started going out in Santa Marta, and I really started discovering how nice Colombians are. I think one of the reasons why I'm here, despite that it's beautiful here, is actually it's more the Colombian people than Colombia per se. I mean, Colombian people, they will bend over backwards to try to help you. If they can help you at all, they will help you. And so I like that. The climate's nice. I came down here in December, and it's nice and warm. I got on a plane in Denver once, and I think it was like minus 10 degrees Fahrenheit in Denver. And I got down here, and it was like 85. It was very nice to live here. And then my youngest had graduated high school from them, and I just decided to more or less semi-retire down here, and came down here, found a place, and it's been a wonderful experience since. And have had some problems. Tried to run a couple of businesses here. I would recommend maybe staying away from them. It's very difficult here. The laws are very restrictive. They're very difficult, and sort of the Colombian mindset with regards to businesses. We'll think about today, and we'll think about tomorrow when we get to tomorrow. They have no forward-looking sort of sense. The business people here. If I can make 1 peso more today, forget that I can make 100 more tomorrow. We'll take the 1 today. So that's kind of a different mindset from what I'm doing business-wise with. But I work online now, making money in the U.S. and living down here. I mean, if you can do that, it's perfect. Getting a U.S. income or a U.S. type income and having local expenses is really a fantastic experience. I mean, I live right behind the marina in Santa Marta, and have an ocean view over the sunset directly. I mean, I'm 1 block back, so I guess I wouldn't call it oceanfront, but I'm 1 block back. And I could never afford that sort of a place in the U.S. And down here, it's wonderful. I mean, I really enjoy it. I've got a new lady friend here, which helps learning Spanish a lot because she doesn't speak English. So, I really enjoy my life. It's been a new adventure. I think one of the things that when I got into my late 50s that sort of started bugging me a little bit back home was everybody was just kind of talking about playing golf and swaddling the grandkids, and I guess waiting for the Grim Reaper to come by. And I guess I'm not ready for the Grim Reaper yet. I'm ready to have another adventure in life, and that's certainly been what's happened down here. Colombia is a huge country and has so many different climates. Bogota is pretty much cold and rainy, and Medellin is the eternal spring, and Santa Marta is kind of the eternal beachfront weather, and help people decide what may work for them. whether they should buy something or rent something. I generally lean to rent your house. If you have a house in the U.S., just rent it out, take the rental income and rent something here. Because one of the things, living overseas, the political risk always exists. You just don't know what's going to happen 20, 30 years from now. I mean, neighboring Venezuela 30 years ago was the richest country in South America. Today, it's one of the poorest countries in South America. My lady friend is a lawyer, and she used to work for the prosecutor's office. So she's a federal prosecutor in Venezuela. And when she left, she was making $50 a month. That's the economic situation over there. So, I wouldn't say tie up your money in real estate. I would say rent a place, and if you don't like it, you can move, or you can go back. It's much easier than buying something. And that's one of the risks. I see people come down here and they have a wonderful vacation, and they find some real estate promoter, and he has a good price, because real estate here is just a lot cheaper than it is in the US. And they buy something, but still, it's $100,000, $200,000 that is now a sunk cost. And then they either decide they don't like it anymore, or political circumstances change. You're stuck with that. So that's kind of one piece of investment advice I would give you: is don't pour the money in here. Keep the money back in the U.S. Just rent here and live here.